and then we can just roll it into.
Okay, yeah, and if there's a better way to do things, obviously, we're learning, so please let us know.
Well, this is laid out in the statute.
Well, that's what I'm
Because of
wondering.
Oh.
community
I
power
wasn't sure whether we could.
legislation. No, this is,
Budget and vote on it as part of the budget, or it had to go to town meeting. Or-
we can later on,
Once
you
we-
can add money to it
But this
as part of the budget,
Gotcha.
but until you've established the account, it needs to go into this individual one.
gotcha. And
So we already did a warrant article for community power.
This is, yes, but this account, the money side of it is a separate portion of state law, and there is wording specifically to
with
establish
regard to
the
the
fund and its
fund,
purpose.
that whereas we vote to
You just-
approve such a.
Rely.
We're
Are
live.
we live now?
Yeah.
All right, so let us return to our agenda, and we have one item left, and that is the community power warrant article request, and we have.
Yeah, all right.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna myself just in case anybody is watching this. And
Later, they'll watch it later.
maybe, and they don't know anything about community power, so. Our town voted to approve community power, which allows for the bulk purchase of electricity. And we can also decide, what types of energy we have options, and we want to be able to save money. It also allows us to potentially put away a portion for our own energy projects. And in 2022, we conducted a survey, and we know that 60% of the respondents support more renewable energy and local energy projects. So this warrant article is specific to community power and the formation of a reserve account. Right away, we are looking at launching in a few months, so hopefully the early part of 2025. We might be able to launch and save some money. And we would need some funds to effectively communicate with our ratepayers here in town, so they understand the process, they understand the opt-out process, they understand that they have options. So there's gonna be a communication piece with that as well. I think the bigger and more exciting reason we wanna start a reserve account is because just yesterday, we received an estimate for, a potential project that we could do here in town, which would have 400% ROI and save us $1.9 million over the course of 40 years. So those types of savings are what we are keen to establish and have control over our own energy future here in town. So if we are able to start this reserve fund, we would use it for not a specific type of renewable energy project, but we would be looking at it holistically. So everything being on the table from geothermal, solar. We've had discussions about micro wind because that's an emerging field, and we do have some structures here in town that could potentially produce a fair amount for us in that way. So we know that this is similar to other committees in town, but this is specifically a specific ask because of the legal nature of community power. So I think we can do big things and specifically save money on our electricity bills for many years to come. So I think it's smart investing if you can invest locally, invest in your community, and then have those big returns where they're reaching the millions of dollar mark. I think that's substantial. So, all right, any questions about the warrant article or the request?
Well, I just to make sure
Yes.
everyone understands the process. So
Yes.
what we're about here is that the community power is a town committee.
Yes.
And so what we're about here is establishing a reserve account where the select board can park monies for the committee to use with select board approval on either for communication purposes with people who participate in the program, as well as for projects that may come up that would be of interest to the town. deal with renewable energy, whether it's solar, wind, geothermal, whatever.
Yes, yeah,
So that's basically what we're talking about here, is bringing forward a warrant article with some sum of money to start this process. And then once the warrant article is authorized, whatever amount we put in it, then every year the select board can simply just add money as part of the budget process based on what you may see coming forward in terms of projects or expenses you may have. Am I getting that all?
Yes, and
Essentially correct.
yeah, I think everything you just said is correct. The other piece to this is if there are grants or other things out
We can plop the money
during
in,
the year,
right?
you can appropriate, I believe, to this reserve fund. We
Okay.
will have to check the legality of that, but that
Okay.
would be, whereas it would, you can still make that appropriation for that purpose, right? You can accept that grant money.
Right, for
You
that
just
purpose.
wouldn't be committing it to community power. It would be a town amount of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
That,
it
that
would
we
be
would choose the
within-
yeah,
purpose
point of
for.
clarification, I just wanna emphasize
Sure.
that you would, of course, and I know you know this, but you would retain complete control over if that money is dispersed and how that money is dispersed. So it's not a committee, you know.
Well, it's
running-
not like the
running-
library trustees. That's
Yeah.
important, right? The
Yeah, yeah,
library
they get their
trustees
money and
Yeah.
get their
do what they want with it.
funds and they control those funds. The CPC does not do
Right.
that.
So what's the difference between doing this and just having a request every year under the normal budget process for, we need $1,000 this year, or we need $1,250 this year because we got this and this coming up and
It's a single appropriation that continues on for a specific purpose. Once that money is appropriated, it can only be used for community power. Whereas if we're making an annual appropriation, it, technically is part of the bottom line, which the board controls how that money is actually used.
so if it doesn't
Throughout
get
the year.
spent,
If it doesn't,
goes away.
it goes to fund balance.
Right.
Yeah.
So this way it would stay in that account.
It would stay in that account and we don't have to put that annual appropriation in
All
there.
right, so if we could put $1,000 in, it might stay there for 3 years before
Right.
we need any money, but.
well, we do that with our maintenance. It's like our maintenance account.
It's like our maintenance accounts, our capital.
Every so
maintenance
often
accounts.
we
Right.
re-energize them with
And the
more money.
difference here is under our, like a non-lapsing account, like those maintenance accounts,
Mhm.
statute tells us what we can and cannot put money away for. So we can only put it away for equipment and,
Mhm.
roads, and there are
Right.
specific things that statute allows us to put the reserves away for. This is written into state law so that you can create this specific reserve account for community power. It's part of the enabling legislation,
Okay.
so.
So,
And
I've noticed my bill has gone down. I don't look at the rate. I just look at the gross amount.
Right.
I was paying over $200 a month. Now I've been paying 160 or so for the last 3 or 4 months.
It's been great. So that's part of why we haven't launched.
That's why we
Right.
have it.
Yeah, because we're not gonna launch unless we're gonna save money.
Yeah.
So that's a great point, yeah.
Would you think of launching just to capture people who might be willing to pay more for green purposes? People don't think that way.
I'm not thinking that way. I just think it's, I think we need to capture.
Because you have
every-
choices, right?
we
There
gotta-
be three
yeah,
choices.
But I think we need to capture everybody or the program doesn't work. And so,
Okay,
we know the values of at least 60% of the respondents that took our survey, but I want as many people as possible participating in this program because in the long term, it's going to allow us to be able to take on bigger projects that will benefit everybody. So if we launch and it doesn't succeed because people aren't seeing, reductions in their electricity bill, then, it's going to be very counterproductive to the long-term goals.
I
of
see.
our
Yeah, of
town.
course. Makes sense.
And so we're trying to get that low end, that low
Right.
number of the
Right.
3.
Right, which
We're
is.
trying to get
right,
that below what the current New Hampshire Electric Co-op
Rate is, right, I get it. Right.
They're at their lowest for a few years now.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make any sense, and we do shop it every month. Standard is looking at it, right?
Yeah, this is our second or third time out
Yeah.
looking for rates.
Yeah,
I think it's our
so,
third time.
so we keep looking at the market. So,
Yeah. Things have been artificially
Okay,
low
no.
in some arenas. And then I wanted to point out, and I'm still trying to figure how this works, but part of community power is at some point our town could say, our people participating in community power could say, we are going to put away 1 penny per kilowatt hour
Mhm.
into this account. And then very quickly, we could have more money for.
I see, people can
for
contribute,
projects.
people,
Right.
the law is written so people can
they can contribute.
contribute an
Yes.
excess amount of their payment to.
Yeah.
To
It would
this
be
fund.
like a 4th category on top of the 3 that we've been talking
Yeah.
about.
Right,
So where people can opt into paying.
and the
a
money will
penny,
go into this,
And then the money goes into
account
this
that where we
reserve
created.
account. Yeah, and then it can be used for townwide
whatever the statute
renewable
allows,
energy
yeah.
projects that are enumerated in the statute.
Yeah. Wendy, did you have any
No,
questions
no.
or
Sounds good.
comments? So are we happy with the warrant article as written?
The wording
Is-
is the statutory requirement.
Right, that's what I meant to ask, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
It is.
I guess we're happy with it.
It's the,
Yeah. Yeah.
your discretionary
amount.
piece of that is the amount.
Right, but as far as the language is concerned,
language
it's
is
good to go for us to move it forward as a warrant article.
So we're proposing
Yeah.
put $1,000 into it,
Whatever
We,
Well,
you
we
would
would
ask
like
for
to start
10.
for 10,000.
10,000.
We
That-
know that we're gonna have at
That
least,
was the original request.
we know that we know right away to communicate the launch of community power, we're looking at several $1,000s for every door direct mailers. So that $2,000 will go towards communication and letting people know about the programming. And then right away, there's always grant opportunities, there's projects like the one that I want to propose to all of you, which do require some money. So if we can have a little bit set aside and we can continue to raise our own through the program itself, we can really move the needle on bringing down electricity costs. And also if we look towards having an energy program here in town that's not dependent on the fluctuating markets, it's going to be very good for our community.
So doing the math back of the envelope quickly, $7,300 would be about a penny
Yes.
per $1,000 on a person's tax bill.
Right.
It would increase their taxes by a penny per 1,000, so on a.
One and a half.
1.5,
About 1.5.
1.5 cents, 1.5 cents, so that a $500,000 home, that would be, somebody help me with the math, $1.50.
Mhm.
Yeah. Or the annual tax bill, if we went up to like, if we wanted just an easy
I
math.
know we're in keeping with a lot of other committees and organizations that ask for money within our community. And we're working hard. We've been together for quite some time and we're looking for shovel-ready projects. So that's why we're asking for this money. We can't get anywhere if we don't have shovel-ready projects. We can't get anywhere if we don't have a little bit of extra money to bring in consultants to help us get to the point of executing these projects. So we do need something, and I don't know another way to access the funds for this program, but we're ready and committed with a lot of research behind us. So
So what would you use if we put $10,000 in? What would you spend it on this summer, this year?
this year, I've got my eye on right now, well, I don't want to speak out of turn. Right away, we need it for marketing, but we have, we've just been given some estimates on solar and for a few of our town buildings that look very promising. So it would be a step in the right direction. And that's what I'd be interested in looking
But are you
into.
talking about consultant or engineer reviews of those
Yes. Yep,
plans?
I mean, we can't fund a project with $10,000, but we can bring in engineers to consult.
And
That's
so-
about what we could probably pay for one consulting firm a year with that kind of money. You know, that's it. So we couldn't probably get much more than.
And
that.
you'd be talking about, you just said a couple thousand for marketing
Yes.
over the year? Okay,
Yeah, this, and that's not gonna be an ongoing expense, we need to communicate heavily in the very beginning of this launch so people understand.
But you wouldn't, if you didn't have a launch, you wouldn't have to communicate with them.
Correct.
right.
Yeah,
I mean,
But the presumption is we're gonna launch.
yeah, so I'm thinking I'm thinking they must be, they must know something about the forecasts for us to be going out with their request for data. But there must be something going on with the natural gas. So, but we're waiting and we're not going to launch unless we're saving money.
Yeah. I mean, we're basically just parking whatever amount we agree to into this account if it's approved by the town. It'll still be up to us to determine whether to spend it in any given year.
You would maintain complete control of the money.
So if for some reason we didn't launch in 2025, it would just sit there, at least the communication part of it, until the following year, no? I mean, it's non-lapsing.
It's non-lapsing.
I don't know, Wendy? you-
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it sounds really valuable to start looking ahead to the future for some sort of stability, and if we can, gosh, we can get some big solar or other renewable projects to help the entire town, especially with the huge facilities we have coming on board to help defray some of those ongoing costs with keeping those going, that would be amazing. So I think starting off with a deposit towards that future.
Yeah,
it
I
makes
mean,
sense.
I'm fine with $10,000. I don't know what you think, Bob, but Wendy.
Yeah.
It's, to me, it's a small investment that we completely control, that we don't have to, we can say no if we don't want to spend it. We're just
Yeah.
raising some money and a small amount from every taxpayer. And I know it all adds up, and putting it in an account for future use at our discretion.
But if we're bringing down energy costs long-term, that's gonna benefit our tax base as well.
Yep.
And that's what we're looking to do.
I thought it was $1,000 and you know,
Well,
it's,
we had talked about.
In a budget
An
meetings.
amount, in our budget
Right.
meeting, we had said we were gonna have this conversation and
Yeah.
the request was 10,000, can it be 7,500 or 5,000 or 1,000? You know,
yeah,
Yeah, no, it's
you know,
really our.
so we needed to have that information
Yeah.
you just gave us about where you would potentially
Yeah.
be spending it.
So yeah, the 10,000, that's gonna get you marketing and consultant fees for a year. If you go down less than that, then something's gonna go.
so let's say you wanted to, let's say we approved it and you wanted to bring in a consultant.
Mhm.
So how would that work? Would you come back to us and say, we got this guy and he's gonna come in and this is specifically what he's gonna do?
Yeah,
And here's the amount that he is estimated cost for this
His
work.
services, yeah.
It's gonna be just like us doing road work or any other. You're gonna review the cost estimate. You're gonna authorize an expenditure up to X amount of dollars. And I'll enter the contract and they'll supervise the work under that contract.
I mean, we got an estimate yesterday, and I'm gonna go through the proper channels. But the estimate yesterday, one building with a solar array over 40 years would save this community $1.9 million. So, when you subtract out the investment cost, you know, it's you have a 400% return on investment. So I'm gonna, again, work with Mark to make sure that that goes through the committee, through all of you properly, but that's, just one opportunity for us to be looking at. That's one building. And I know with wastewater treatment plant, there's gonna be a lot more of those types of opportunities to take advantage of. But I mean, that's gonna be more of a Black and Beach issue. These are
Mhm.
just taking advantage of the opportunities that we have beyond Black and Beach. So shovel ready
Mhm.
projects that we can get into.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
What if we did, we're doing a list of
mhm.
other warrant articles other than the budget warrant articles. If it's all right with you, we'll add this to the list.
Mhm.
We'll put it in for the 10,000, see what the impact is.
On January 3rd.
And then
Yeah, that's what I
January
was
3rd,
thinking.
we
Yeah.
can review it.
We can
and-
review it and decide if all these little pennies here and nickels there add up
Okay.
too much
Yeah,
for
Right.
what we're adding. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me.
Okay,
Yep.
So we'll do that conditionally. We still have to talk through the budget, which we will on the 3rd of January, so we should have a decision shortly thereafter.
All right, well, I do appreciate your consideration, and so
well,
any.
thank you for the hard work too.
Yes,
you.
yes, for all you're doing. Thank you.
You as well.
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank
All righty.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think we need to return to our non-public
Non-public.
session. Let me know when we are, again, no longer recording.